Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time Tuesday. This is Patrick J. Brown, Executive Director of Renewal Context and Culture here at the Renewal Center. Welcome to Tea Time Tuesday, where we pause, reset, and build resilience. Good to see everyone. Hopefully, you are pausing right now. Hopefully, you're going to focus on resetting and build your resilience. You'll never be the same after you pause and reset. So, I want to welcome everyone here to the Renewal Center, our Tea Time Tuesday. If you're out there, let us know. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the sharing up. Let's get the subscriptions up to our channel here at the Renewal Center. I tell you, it's been about 4 years now of Tea Time Tuesday. So, let's continue to build that community. Grab your journal. All right. Grab your tea. Grab your pen, your pencil, and let's get ourselves settled today. So good to see every one of you. Glad that you're here. Go ahead and share this link with someone if you will. Let everybody know that we are here for Tea Time Tuesday. Share the link, subscribe to our channel. And again, our focus is about pausing, resetting, and building resilience. And so just want to encourage you to come along today as we focus on emotional intelligence. Matter of fact, we are focusing on Emotional Intelligence Awareness Month here at the Renewal Center. And of course, that is about self awareness, self regulation, and social awareness, taking care of yourself and empathizing with others. And so October again is Emotional Intelligence Awareness Month. We're recognizing that, and we also want to recognize that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Those that are survivors, those that are experiencing this moment, we are walking in support of you in the research and the awareness, our health and awareness in the area of Breast Cancer Awareness Month here at the Renewal Center. And so we just want to encourage you as we are honoring those two awarenesses for this month. There are other ones that are out there, of course, but for today, we want to emphasize those and want to thank everybody for being a part of our Tea Time community today. So, everybody, please pause. Good to see you. Hello, Crystal. Good to see you as well, Shar. Good to see you. Good afternoon to you as well. Pamela, good afternoon to you as well. Let's get all the likes up, everybody, if you will, and subscribe. Share with others that we are here on the Renewal Center's YouTube channel. Make sure everybody is subscribing and let's get started. All right. Before we get started, I wanted to also, I don't have a tea of the week right now, but if you have tea, grab your tea. What is your tea? I'm doing another chai latte again. So I have mine right here. And that's what we do here at Tea Time. We're going to pause, we're going to reset, we're going to build our resilience today. Also, want to give us a moment, if you will, just collect yourself. We're going to locate ourselves and just pause for a moment. I know that everybody is busy. You've got a lot going on in your day. So let's just take a moment, if you will, for us to collect ourselves. Let's locate ourselves for a moment, and then we will get started on today's renewal practice on Equip Your EQ. See you in a moment. Just take a moment and breathe in and center yourself this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are. Just take a moment if you're coming into the space to pause. All right. Hopefully, everybody has located yourself. And so, what today we're going to focus on emotional intelligence. Last week, we focused on that as well. But today, we're going to concentrate on a few principles to help us with what I call equip your EQ. But let's ensure that today we have a common definition. Emotional or EQ is about awareness, regulation, and connection. So self awareness, self regulation, and then social connection or social awareness. So that makes up EQ, the ability to recognize, regulate, and understand emotions in yourself and others. It's very important that we're able to engage in that. So that's the premise for what we're going to focus on today. And then I'm going to introduce a few principles, but let's interact today. I'd like to ask a question today is where do you or where do we need more awareness? Where do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture? Open-ended question. Where do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture? I want you to think about that question as we kick off our renewal practice for the day on equip your EQ. Where do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture? I want you to think about what's happening in our world today. I want you to think about what's happening in our nation, perhaps what's happening in your city, in your region, even in your company. And I want you to consider what do we need more awareness, or where, excuse me, do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture? We want to camp out on that particular question and let's engage each other today as we get ourselves prepared for our renewal practices for the day. Now, when we think about self awareness, we talked about this last week about recognizing where we are, recognizing our thoughts, recognizing our emotions, naming it, naming what's happening on the inside of us, and connecting ourselves to our values. Because once we clarify our values, then we connect our values to our behaviors once we connect to our values. So it's clear that we understand what our values are and we name them, we clarify them, we embody them, we live them, we demonstrate them. Because once we connect our values to our behavior, that's how we improve our self awareness. So I want to go to a few things here, a few answers that's out here today. Hello, Nichelle. Good to have you on. Hello. Hello. Let's look at some of these answers here. Shar says, in our relationships and jobs. So we need more awareness or empathy in our relationships and our jobs. Thank you for sharing. Nichelle says here, in the workplace. Thank you so much. Anybody else, feel free to share your ideas, your thoughts. Where do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture? That's so important. And I'm going to use this as a premise today as we think through EQ in our relationships, EQ in our jobs or our workplace areas. So let's get started here. Again, I want to just recap about self awareness, self regulation, and awareness, which are the three areas of EQ. Self awareness helps you understand what? Yourself. Self regulation helps you manage yourself. So sometimes people can understand themselves, but they're not managing. So we have to regulate. And then social awareness helps you connect with others. So those are the three areas that we covered last week. Just want to briefly recap. We started out with awareness and regulation. We talked about the three A's of self awareness, acknowledging where you are, assessing their source and impact, and then adjusting your response accordingly. So we need to acknowledge what's going on in my headspace. I need to assess where is this really coming from and what's the impact, and then adjusting my response accordingly. What this does is really improves your self-awareness, which is helping you understand yourself. That means acknowledging means I'm accepting where I am. And then once I accept it and acknowledge it, I assess where it's coming from and the impact of what's happening to me. And then I start adjusting. So we focused on that as well. Then we began to talk through different areas of self regulation, recognizing it, noticing what you feel, and restraining. Don't react prematurely, right? Make sure there's restraint. Make sure that we reframe it. We shift our interpretation of what's happening. And then we talked about responding or choose a constructive action. So please feel free to go back to last week's Tea Time Tuesday, and you'll get the content and the interaction that we did for that. And again, we talked about, I asked the question, where do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture? Pamela says here, in our families. Thank you so much. In family. All right. So today, I'd like us to concentrate on equipping our EQ. How do we really equip REQ. So I would like to hone in on that. And also, we're going to ask a question about what habits you were doing in your EQ, but we'll get to the end of that before we finish our. Okay, so you watched it last week. Okay, thank you, Nichelle. I'm glad you did. All right, so you got that foundation from last week. We're going to build on that, and then we're going to expand a little bit this month on EQ practices and approaches. And so I'm looking forward to us engaging. Now, remember, it's not about controlling emotions, it's about cultivating wisdom through them. Not trying to control what I feel. What I'm doing is, how do I cultivate wisdom through my emotion? That's what awareness does. You become more aware. Okay, I see what's going on in my headspace and heart space, right? My thinking, my feeling, and then I cultivate wisdom by recognizing them and connecting my values to behavior. And what that does, it helps you maintain a realistic view of your strengths and your limits, and you gain confidence. I tell you, when you start reflecting, your confidence goes up in self-awareness when you start maintaining a realistic view of your strengths. So today we're going to concentrate on how are we going to equip, and let's go to our 3 practices for inner mastery. Let's get these down and put these in your journal. Clarity. You got to see what you're dealing with. You got to have clarity. That means no denial. No denial about what you're experiencing. You got to be clear. Now, that means ownership. That's not, you made me feel this way. No, no, no. Clarity says, I'm simply seeing the emotion. I'm observing what's going on inside of me. Now, let's relate this to the workplace. All right. Somebody ignores you on a call. They didn't invite you to a meeting. They talked over you. They talked at you. They didn't copy you on an important email. They didn't respond when they were said they were going to. Passive aggressive behaviors. All these different aspects happen in the workplace. So it causes you to respond a particular way. Well, what are we going to do here? We're going to see the emotion. Clarity. Everybody type in the comments, clarity. We're going to see the emotion, which is clarity. We're not going to deny it. We're not going to pass the buck. Inner mastery requires clarity. I really need to name it. That's why it's important, to expand the range of what you're experiencing at that moment. Once you recognize it, which is clarity, and again, we're working on self-awareness. This is something we want to work on this entire month of October. All right. What that's going to do for you is going to help you with seeing and recognizing what's in front of you. Good afternoon, Monique. Good to see you on. Hello, hello. All right. Everybody type in clarity. Clarity is about seeing the emotion. Now, when we think about this, I know some people say, well, I'm not emotional. Everybody's emotional. The whole world is emotional. We may not be emotionalistic. We may not be ruled by our emotions, but everybody has a sense of emotion. Trust me, the Steelers won on Sunday. I'm emotional. So, again, emotion, right? This is not good or bad, right? It's not right or wrong. And it's not about controlling them. It's about cultivating wisdom through them. That's what this EQ is about. And so we want to emphasize today in our renewal practice is clarity. Number 2, composure. Everybody type that out. Write this out. Composure. Pause before acting. We started out every tea time. What did we started out with, folks? Locate yourself, right? Been doing this for quite a while. We pause. Let me just pause for a moment. Okay. I want to cultivate wisdom in this experience. Once you start sharpening that as a discipline and as a habit, stress will be managed properly when you initially start with clarity and moving into composure. It's not about controlling the emotion. It's about cultivating what? Wisdom. Cultivating wisdom from the experience. That is what we're working on, friends. All right. Let's make sure that we cultivate that. Composure is critical if we're going to really engage in being clear about how to equip our EQ. Why is composure important to you? When you think about the question we asked at the beginning, where do we need more awareness and empathy in our culture? Some people said relationships, others says jobs. We saw workplace out there. Composure is important. Why is that important to you? What can you do to improve that area? First thing we want to do is clarity. Then we want to have composure. I've got to pause before I act. Now, I encourage you to hone in on areas that you may know that's not a strength for you. Because I might pause and have more composure in another area than maybe something else because certain things get to you. You know what I mean? So it's like, what am I doing to make sure that I'm cultivating wisdom through my composure because I have clarity? So I go from clarity, then I move to a space of composure. And so I really hone in on what I need to do, which is pausing instead of reacting. You know how to react? I'm going to say what I got to say. It don't matter. No, it does matter, right? I'm keeping it real. No, no. Composure. Why? Others are watching you. People are watching you. Um, it can impact dynamics in the workplace. Just because I know people say, well, I'm going to give them the same energy. No, you don't do that. You show composure. Just because somebody else is giving you that does not mean that's what you do, right? No, no. We sow different seeds so we can get a different result. We don't sow the same seeds or do the same action cycles and patterns that others do just because they're giving you that so-called energy. No, we don't want to pattern after that. That's not a good renewal practice. All right. We don't want to respond or react with the same. We want to make sure we sow different seeds so we can get different results. Sometimes you got to do that. All right. Now, this is not a conversation about meekness and weakness. That's something else, right? We'll talk about what that means at another time. But this is really about self awareness. That's the part that we want to emphasize today. Not controlling the emotion, but cultivating wisdom through it. All right. That's what it's going to do for us. Let's go to the third point here in our practices for inner mastery. Select the wisest response. After I have clarity, after I focus on composure, now I can choose. So if you're struggling with something in your job, write this on a post-it note and put it right on your screen. And that person shows up at that meeting and you think clarity, composure, and choice, Patrick. You start talking to yourself. Clarity, composure, and choice. Once you start rehearsing that as a principle, then you start seeing the results. Why? Because this is like my values here. I'm connecting my values of clarity. I'm connecting my values of it's important for me to have composure when I show up because I'm setting the tone, I'm the tune for conversations, even people's responses. What I'm doing is I am now the thermostat of the meeting, not necessarily the thermometer. So that's important. All right. Let's make sure that we do that. So again, clarity, composure, and now everybody, let's write down choice. All right, choice. We're going to emphasize choice. And I want to encourage you over the next week, the next time we have our tea time, what we'd like to do is say, okay, how were you in the clarity space? How did you handle your composure? What happened with your choice? What are you seeing about yourself that's different in terms of self-awareness and self-regulation? Choice. We have a choice of what we're going to give our attention to. We have a choice on how we're going to respond. And we have a choice to say, I will be proactive in my emotional awareness, my self awareness and my self regulation. I'm not going to suppress them. I'm going to allow them to be expressed, but cultivating wisdom. That helps you build trustworthiness. It helps you with restraint. You ever talk to someone and you know they're going to pop off? What happens? You probably say, I'm not going to talk to that person because I know if I share something with them, they're going to pop off or go off, or they got that go off mindset. They haven't practiced it restraint. So, one way of growing in this is what? Teaching it to someone else. Hold a team meeting. Take 3 5 minutes and say, hey, we're going to focus on emotional regulation and awareness with one another. How are we going to do this? With clarity, composure, and choice. Share it with your youth. Share it with your young adults. Share it with those that kind of react quickly. That helps them gather what's going on in their head and heart space rather than suppressing it, and they learn to cultivate confidence because they're able to reflect. Composure helps you with reflection. Are we good? How's your tea today? What does it say? It says be amazing. All right. I guess I will be today. All right. So, self awareness again helps you understand yourself. Self regulation helps you manage yourself. Social awareness helps you connect to others. Now, let's go to the EQUIP acronym for EQ. Let's write all this down. Examine, question, understand, integrate, practice. Can everybody type in your comments equip? We're equip your EQ. Examine, question, understand, integrate, practice. Equip. So over the next week, we're going to what? Equip my EQ. I'm going to examine. Now, when we think about empathy, I want to go back to that from an awareness perspective. When we think about the self-regulation piece and then social awareness, which helps you connect with others, when you are empathizing, and I talked about this last week about empathy, we were talking about focus on empathy as the other person, not your own reaction. So this is from last week. All right. So when you're in empathy, you're listening and understanding. You're not offering quick fixes. And so say, for instance, you're in your job, you're connecting with, and you have a conversation, somebody is struggling with someone. Here's what sympathy will do. The listener, let's just say you're the listener, and when you function with sympathy, you'll say, that's awful. Here's what I would do. That's sympathy. That must be awful. You know what? Here's what I would do in that situation. Now what you're doing is you're going into your quick fix and you're naming the situation for the person. That's sympathy. We start going into what we call solutioning people. You know what I would do is, first of all, they didn't ask you. That's number one. Secondly, empathy doesn't immediately go to a quick fix. Sympathy goes to the fix because sympathy brings it to you. It brings it to you, your own reaction. I've done that before. You may have done that before, right? I especially have done this when you start hearing something repetitively and you start saying, you know what, here's what I would do in this situation. And you go right to sympathy. So there's a balance there, of course, because I think it's important to ask for permission. Hey, do you want my insight on that? Sure. Then you move into, because what that does is that establishes trust. So sometimes it's important that we listen without trying to offer a solution or a quick fix. But again, we're talking about self-awareness, self-regulation, and social awareness. And especially in a workplace context, sometimes it's important to listen to people and then they end up resolving it on their own. And that creates an atmosphere of trust and empowerment versus me resolving it for them. All right. All muscles grow in resistance. You got to stretch and have resistance to grow the muscle. It's the same thing with how we engage our own personal and professional growth. So it's important as well. All right. So let's go back to equip. Now, let me just be clear. Empathy will respond and say, it sounds like you felt overwhelmed and frustrated. I'm not saying anything else. I'm simply acknowledging where they are. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel that way. Why don't you change your perspective? You need to change your confession. Hold on a second. Sounds like you're overwhelmed, frustrated. And you're listening and you're pausing and you're being what? Present. Sounds like you felt overlooked with that situation. Sounds like frustration. You're listening. Don't go into, well, here's how I would handle that situation because they said that they treated me like that at work. No. Okay. So it's important that we are equipping. Let's go to our equip. So we want to examine, question, understand, integrate, and practice. Now, based upon what I did, which one felt more connecting? empathy or sympathy? Put your answers in the chat. Based upon that little exercise, that role play there, the listener responds twice, and I showed sympathy and then I showed empathy. Which one was more connecting? Just want to get your perspective on that. So the 5 areas of equip would be examine. So I need to notice my internal state and my emotional climate. Okay, some of you are saying empathy. Yes. Uh-huh. Sounds more connecting, doesn't it? Instead of saying, well, here's what I would do, Monique. Here's what I would do, Nichelle, Pamela. This is what I'm going to say. This is what wait, just pause, reset, build resilience. See how important? Clarity, composure, choice. Let me focus on empathy, right? So this is important if we're going to really strengthen and build and equip our EQ. So we're going to examine, which is noticing your internal emotional climate. Question, ask what the emotion is signaling. What is it actually letting you know? Emotions are informers. Emotions can be informers. So what is it actually signaling to me? Now let's do just a quick analogy, because we talked about here climate. What when you look at climate is what? Atmosphere. What's happening in the clouds in the sky, right? That's a climate. And the climate determines what's going to happen in the atmosphere. It's going to determine what type of condensate, what's going to descend, whether it's a lot of wind, whether there's snow, whether there's hail, whether there's sleet, whether there's ice, whether there's rain, whether there's excessive wind, whether there's surging from oceans and streams and rivers and seas. Climate determines a lot. You got to notice your internal climate. Where's your head space and your heart space about it? Examine it and then question, what is it signaling in me? I'm offended, I'm bothered, I'm frustrated, I don't like it, da 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 da. So question it. Then understand, identify needs, yours and others. So you move from examination to question, sit in the question long enough to understand it and answer the question. Let's not move so fast. All right? Comments are coming in. Taking a moment to pause before responding and not reacting. Absolutely. Nichelle says, been getting a lot of practice lately with empathy at work. People are really going through and they manage to find you, even those in other departments. Yes, they will find you. So it's important. Empathy. You're going to get a lot of practice, Nichelle. That's right. Okay. Folks, we've got to examine, question, and understand. Identify needs, yours and others. Then integrate. Align your actions with that awareness. Now that I'm aware, am I going to act differently or am I going to remain the same? Let's sit with that. Let's sit with this today. What is that showing you? Hey, Hope, what is that showing you? Ask what emotion is signaling. You can't skip Q. You can if you want to, but you may not become aware. You may not improve your EQ if you skip over the Q. Well, I'm just going to skip over that question. You ever did that on a test? That's too hard. I'm going to skip over that question and come back to it. Question. What is it signaling to me? And once I answer that, you know what? You can also do this with your thoughts. See, emotions and thoughts they're on the same train track. They just go in different directions. So sometimes we're irrational with an irrational thought. That's another conversation. But today we're talking about emotional intelligence and EQ. And so we want to make sure, what is this emotion signaling? What is it revealing to me about me? Resist the urge to go to the other person and say, well, this is how they're. Pause, reset, build resilience, right? What is this signaling about me? And have I identified the needs there, yours and others? Then I can move into integration, where now my actions align with my awareness. Then I can move to practice. Let's not move to practice so quickly. That's repeating, reflect, and refine every day. That you start building trustworthiness, you start building out more restraint, you start recognizing where you are. And this is not just about coping, this is about growing. This is about expanding. This is about, I'm examining, I'm noticing my climate. Do I have a tornado mindset? Do I have a hurricane mentality? When you show up, here comes a hurricane. where when you show up, is it, oh, they're refreshing. They're like a spring, you know? Or are you a hurricane? Mm-hmm. Thoughts? There's an old song, I think in the 80s, called The Pink Tornado. Let's talk about the tongue. Yeah, it was in the late 80s. But anyway, we don't want to walk around. They're a tornado. They're a pink tornado because how they talk to people, what they say when they show up. Their climate brings a certain amount of presence with it. We got to look at what's happening inside of us, signaling what's going on. And then lastly, of course, we integrate, we align our actions with awareness, and then we repeat, reflect, and refine daily. We started out talking about where do we need more awareness or empathy in our culture. We got responses of relationships, jobs, workplace. I want you to consider today, as we close out our renewal practice, is about clarity. We started out with clarity, talked about the importance of composure, and then we talked about the importance of choice. That gets us started, because that's about self-awareness and regulation. I'm not going to suppress anything, but what this is going to do is help me remain calm under stress and build trustworthiness and restraint. Then we're going to equip our EQ. Examine, notice what's going on in my climate. All right? What does a tornado do? It just blows everything over. What does a vortex do? It brings everything to its center. You know? Am I an earthquake mindset person? I mean, notice your internal emotional climate. Ask what emotion is signaling. What is it showing you about you? Identifying needs, yours and others. And again, this is not self-condemnation, and it's not self-analysis as much. I would even call it sacred awareness. How about that? I'm reverence, and I want to be aware so that I can continue to grow. That's so important in how we expand who we are and equipping our EQ. And then we can integrate at that time by aligning our actions with awareness. And then I start practicing this daily. I keep repeating this equip. I'm going to examine, I'm going to question. The more that you do this, clarify, compose, and choose, the better you're going to refine and equip your EQ. So here's the question as we close out this particular practice is, what's one EQ habit you'll begin practicing this week? Let's take a pause. What's one EQ habit you will begin practicing this week? Is it clarity? Is it composure? Is it choice? Or is it possibly examine or question or understand or integrate? What is one EQ habit you'll begin practicing this week so that you can equip your EQ? Let's hear from all the tea timers today. Want to get your thoughts. All right? This is so important that we're doing this. Yes, yes. It's important that we do this. Okay? What are your thoughts, folks? What is one EQ habit that you'll begin practicing this week? Let's hear from the crowd here. Is it clarity? Is it composure? Is it choice? What are you working on? All right. This is important. And you know what? Once you name what you're working on, you're going to sharpen it. You're going to refine it. You're going to see healthier engagement in your job. You're going to see healthier engagement in your relationships. You're going to see healthy engagement in how you lead, how you respond. You'll start looking at growth. There'll be no more self-condemnation. It'll just be nothing but expansion. You won't suppress what you're dealing with. You'll channel it right. You'll maintain a better sense of calm under the stress that you're dealing with. So I want you to think about that. What's one EQ habit you'll begin to practice this week? While you're doing that, please share your takeaways from today's renewal practice. Before we do that, I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow, each and every Wednesday, here at the Renewal Center, we have Reforming Culture. We are in a series from September to May on the Christology of Spiritual Formation every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Please join us each Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. You can register by downloading our mobile app. You can also go to our website, renewalcenters.com, or you can actually go to our social media sites as well. I want to invite you each and every Sunday at 10 a.m. to our digital discipleship. You can join us on our digital service at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time each and every Sunday. Look forward to seeing you there. Also want to remind you every Friday at 6:30 a.m. This is the same Zoom and password for the Reforming Culture. There at the bottom, 864-2866-4841. That is the Zoom ID, and then the password is LEAD 2021, LEAD 2021. And that's our morning prayer each Friday at 6:30 a.m., where we come together and we are soaking in the presence of the Lord. You don't have to come on camera, just come in and engage in a time of reverence and a time of prayer. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for that. Also, want to remind you, all right, there's ways that you can give to the Renewal Center. If this has been a value add to you, you can donate and support us as a nonprofit organization, as a ministry. These are the ways you can give. Go to our website, therenewalcenters.com/give. Also, just take your phone now and you can text Renewal Center to 888-364-4483. And it'll prompt you to a secure way of giving. Want to encourage you to also download the mobile app as well. You can catch all of our previous Reforming Culture teachings, our Renewal Center content. There's a Bible on there. There's prayer requests. We have a blog right there at your fingertips. And then, of course, you can give through PayPal and Zelle, which is the Renewal Center 2020 at Gmail, and Venmo there at Renewal Center. And if you want to mail a check or money order, there's a P.O. Box 1381, Concord, North Carolina, 28026. So we hope to see you either there. We hope to see you here for our Reforming Culture tomorrow at 7:30 or Friday for our morning prayer. And of course, here for Tea Time Tuesday, first and second Tuesdays at 12 p.m. and our fourth Tuesday at 7 p.m. in the evening. So please make sure, share this if you will. Share this, send this link to someone else that you think would be important for them to have content on Equip your EQ, and subscribe to our channel, please. Go ahead, press the notification bell so you can get the notifications when we go live here at the RC. All right, what are some of our takeaways? Yes, we got some stuff coming in here. All right, Monique says, I'm going to practice composure. I will take time to pause and reflect before I respond. Good practice. I want to understand. You understand. I get it. Yes. Takeaway again, Nichelle. Empathy, not so much sympathy as it's something I struggle with because I want to fix. especially someone who keeps complaining about the same thing. I feel you on that. Like, you know what? Here's what you need to do. All right. So that's important. Maybe one thing you could do, Nichelle, is say, um, do you mind if I share something with you about that? Get some permission. They say yes, and then go right in. That's another good way of getting over that. All right. Pamela says this. I had an issue today with work that requires me to examine my internal emotional climate. This whole series is Go Thank You. You are welcome. All right. You're welcome. Absolutely, Monique. Thank you so much for being on, everyone. And so let's take another pause and another reset to look at ourselves before we close out today. Thanks everybody for being on today. I hope that this equip to EQ you has been a strength. You are welcome. You are welcome. Hopefully that was a helpful tip to everyone. I'm going to focus on ensuring that I connect to my values. Make sure I stay grounded in my values. That's something I'm going to work on to ensure that helps me maintain I would say, a realistic view of my strengths and my limits. All right. So that's something that I'm going to work on this week as far as my own equipping to EQ as well. So thanks everyone for being on. And let's go ahead and locate ourselves again. Let's take another time to pause and reset. And hopefully we'll see you either Wednesday for Reforming Culture, Friday for our morning prayer, Sunday for New You Digital Discipleship, or we'll see you again on Tea Time Tuesday. Thanks so much, everybody. Remember, I am Renewal. Let's take care of each other. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a very good day.